Hello everyone, my name is Virasat and I am from FZ Technologies. Today I'm going to talk about inbound direct web services in ServiceNow and how to create a .NET client. Before we do that, I'm going to go over some of the basic prerequisites that needs to be done before creating a .NET client. So first thing that we need to do is to verify the table permission and roles, and then we are going to create an inbound web service. And after that, we need to make sure some of the configuration changes in the ServiceNow. So let's go to ServiceNow, and this is my personal instance. I want to show you, this is basically the custom table that I created. This is a very simple table. If I go there, this table has only one record, and it has like very few fields: the number, first name, last name, and phone number. So let's check what kind of permissions and roles this table has. So I go there, and the first thing that we need to check is the application access. This in application access, this needs to be checked. Allow access to this table via web services. If this is not going to be checked, a web service user won't be able to access this table using the web service. Another thing is these permissions needs to be checked. Can create, can read, and can create. Since we are trying to create a record in this table, so this needs to be checked. And also, when you create a table, by default it creates a role. So this is the role web service user needs to have. And other than that, if I go to the ACL rules, these are very basic types of rule. Every time if you create a table, you always have these basic ACL rules. And now let's I created a web service user here, so let's go to the user form. And the user that I created is a web service. To search this web service user and see what kind of user is this. If I can type correctly. So this is the web service user that I created. If you see that I enable this flag web service access only, so this user can only communicate through web service. This is not an interactive user. And another thing is that we need to check the roles. There are so in order to create or communicate through a web service, the user needs to have this SOAP role, and this is the role that we talked about earlier. This is the table role that also needs to have here. Otherwise, the web service user won't be able to create a record here. So after that, those are the two things that we need to make sure. So one thing is that when you have the SOAP role, the SOAP role has like multiple roles inside in that role. Like so, if I go back here, so if you see, you are seeing this user only has a SOAP role, but on this table we are seeing that it has got multiple SOAP query, SOAP update, SOAP delete. The reason is that because the SOAP role itself has like multiple SOAP roles. So this is the user configuration that we have. Another thing that we need to do is we need to check the web service properties here. So we go to the web and the system web services, and over here we have a properties. So for .NET Client, if you want to create a .NET Client, this property needs to be unchecked. Otherwise, this is not going to work. You won't be able to get a response back. So this property needs to be unchecked, and those are the configurations that is needed. So after that, we basically need to create a WSDL. In ServiceNow, there is a very easy way to create a WSDL. So let's go back to our table. Our table was customer. So we go here, and again, Go to the table here, right click here and see what is the table name, because this is just the label of the table. So I copy the name of the table from here, and go to this address bar, remove everything from here and type the table name and then do the question mark and WSDL. So as soon as you type it, it generates an XML document which is a WSDL. If you see this XML document, it has got multiple methods: get keys, get response, get response. So it creates multiple methods for you to use. So the method that we are interested in here is insert method, because this is what because we are trying to create a record here. So let's copy this WSDL and go to the Visual Studio. Go ahead and create a project here. So I'm going to create a web-based project, empty project. I'm going to name this project as Servicenow integration. So okay, so it has created the project. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to create add a form here, the web form. I'm going to leave this web form as it is. So in the form, I'll go to the design mode and add some field here, maybe like add 2 columns here, or 3 columns is fine. So I'm going to create a button here and maybe a text box to get the response back from the ServiceNow. Okay, so I added a form. After that, I need to basically go here in references, right click on this, add service reference. So you do add service reference, type your WSDL here, click go. It's probably going to ask you the username and password, so you type your username and password here. So you can see here it has all the methods that we saw in the XML document. So just name a space is service reference 1. So just leave it as it is. So what it does, basically, it creates a proxy class, right? So I go here and select all the files to view all the files here. Go service reference here, and this is the proxy class that we have. Okay, in this proxy class, we have this SOAP client somewhere here. This is the client that we need to use. So I go to my form here, double click on this so that it can generate a button click event. Over there, we need to write a C# code. So the first thing that we need to do is start with our namespace, and we need to use a SOAP client, which is Service Now. So this is not picking up. Let's go back here and copy that. I don't know why this thing is not picking up. This here. Is new SOAP client, and ServiceNow. What's wrong with this thing? Okay, this is service reference 1. Okay, so that's why it was getting the red squiggly line. So now I'm going to use the properties, the client credential properties of this object, and then username username is going to be US user. Yes, user. Same thing is for password. Client dot this username. Actually, this would be password. User. Okay, so we have got created the client object and basically the passing the basic authentication as the username and password. And after that, we need to create insert object. So I go here and service reference 1 dot insert, and I'm gonna say this insert object would be my insert SN insert is equal to this new insert. Okay, so if you see that, if you want to check what is this insert thing, insert class, this is insert class that is generated by the prox .NET. So if I go here, so in this class you have multiple properties. This is a private, these are private fields and these are properties. So we will be using these properties to basically build an insert object. So first name here, last name, and numbers. So I'll be using these properties to build the insert object. So go back here. So my insert object is going to be like yes, insert first name equals to service. Okay, last name equals to maybe now. SN insert is last name should be phone number would be 202 0999 0000. Okay, so let's basically just pass 3 parameters. This is my insert object, and now we need to um, call the insert method in this SOAP client class. So for that we need to do again service reference 1 dot insert response. Insert response. I'll name this thing as a response. SN is equal to client dot insert and SN insert. Okay, so basically this insert is a method in this SOAP class, Servicenow SOAP client class. So if you go here, I can show you basically. Go to the definition here. Should be insert update response. Insert should be a method here. response, or we can find from here actually, much easier. This is so client should be method here, set request, set, yeah, here is this. So basically it returns you object with the type of insert response if this is the method, and there is one parameter here, it is asking the insert object. So this is what I was talking about. So if you see the type of this object is the insert object, and that is exactly what we are passing here. We are passing, we created the insert object here first, and we are passing this insert object to this method. So once we have this, and then we want to get the response back in the text box that we created. The text box is text, and it's going to be response sn dot number. Okay, so I'm going to close this. This thing is in a try catch block. Okay, and catch exception, maybe even. So in case of exception, I'm going to catch error message here, and I'm going to say again error message should be displayed here. Text box 1 or text is equal to even dot message, and finally I'm going to close the connection. Close connection. Okay, so this script is ready. So this is pretty straightforward and simple script. What I'm going to do, basically just run this. And click on this thing. Okay, so I get this error message, and as I said earlier in my presentation, so we need to basically modify the web config file, the security thing. So if I go back to my web config file, which should be here, so there is a security tag here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so I already have copied the security. This one should be, yeah, security. Go back here, and I'm gonna just replace this security mode with this value. Okay, so basically it tells you that, I mean, what kind of authentication that you are using, client credential type, and these things. So now let's go back to my form and try this again. Click this button. Okay, so I see a number coming back from the ServiceNow. So look, copy this number and go to ServiceNow and see if it has created a record. customers. Okay, this is the record that it just created. So if you see that we have like first name is service, last name is this, and the phone number is this. So this is how basically we can create a .NET client and invoke the SOAP whistle. So that's it. And thank you so very much for watching my video.